Obviously, the website, when it was first launched, wasn't in tip-top shape, to say the least. But we have been 24/7 going at it. And now, for the vast majority of users, it's working. So I'm going to need you all to spread the word about how the Affordable Care Act really works, what its benefits are, what its protections are, and most importantly, how people can sign up.
Welcome to the Journal Editorial Report. I'm Paul Gigot. That was President Obama at this week's White House Youth Summit, pitching the revamped healthcare.gov website to millennials, a group that is crucial to the Affordable Care Act's success. The White House and congressional Democrats are touting this week's relaunch, pointing to reports of rising enrollment numbers and regrouping to sell the controversial law to a still skeptical public. So is Obamacare on the road to recovery? Let's ask Wall Street Journal editorial board member Joe Rago, deputy editor Dan Henninger, and Potomac Watch columnist Kim Strassel. So, Joe, has Obamacare turned the corner here, as the White House says?
They'd love to make you think that. But what they did was they made a deliberate political decision to fix the part of the website that consumers see, but they haven't fixed the so-called back end. This is the information systems that transmit data to insurers about who's signing up for their products. So it's essentially like ordering something online and never having it go to the warehouse to be delivered to you.
So the interface with the consumer is improved, and the sign-up numbers
but still not totally up to speed.
Well, they're pitching this 29,000 enrollment figure for the first 2 days of December. Is that meaningful?
Well, look, they were looking for 7 million people to sign up. Even if you get 29,000 every day, you're still not going to hit that number.
House Ways and Means Chairman Dave Camp actually put out a little notice pointing out that what they in fact need to hit that 7 million number is 100,000 people a day. Right. So 29,000 over 2 days, that's 15% of the numbers that they need to be hitting.
Dan, the one goal the White House had here was, as Joe suggests, political, namely that they needed to stop the Democrats from, on Capitol Hill in particular, from running away from the law. And this seems to have worked. The spin about how this is all fixed now. You don't hear a lot of Democratic criticism.
Well, I think in part, Paul, it's because a lot of the Democrats on the Hill are not really themselves up to speed on the technology that's been applied to this system. So short term, for a week or so, yeah, they can get some quiet up on Capitol Hill. But Obama's biggest problem is that the young people, the so-called millennials, excuse me, are not signing up. And we just had this Harvard poll out this week which said about 57% of them disapprove of Obamacare. And one of the reasons is that the costs are very high. They didn't know the costs were going to be so high. But the other reason is that the website is an experience that you would expect to have had back in the early 1990s, not 2013. They have something, for instance, called a queuing tool, which means that if, say, 50,000 people are using the website, a little sign will come on and say, give us your email address, you can't get on, and we'll call you back. You know, for millennials, this is laughable. And they just sort of lose faith in the system. And so I think the process of signing people up is just going to lose ground over time.
Is it that big a problem, Joe? I mean, you're a millennial. What do you think? I mean, is this sort of something that your generation looks at and says, you know, this is a bit ridiculous given where we are technologically?
I think so. I mean, part of it is the technological problem, but part of it is the product that they're being required by law to buy.
They just don't like it.
This is an overpriced product. It's very tightly regulated, and it's not the kind of it doesn't adapt to changing circumstances. It's saying everyone should want the same thing, and that's just not true.
What about, Kim, this White House, much talked about White House offensive they're going on to sell this, not only to get millennials to enroll, but to get the public to think better about it. They're going around picking anecdotes from this person gets help because they couldn't get coverage before. This person had a pre-existing condition. This person is now on Medicaid. It's a very concerted, deliberate strategy. What's behind this?
Well, they're trying to make it suggest that it works, and they now have the website somewhat in order at the front end so they can say that, look, you can get there and you can get your thing. The problem is they've got like 10 of these examples, right? And that has to be compared against the millions of people who are losing their coverage. And so what you see are they're rolling out all the Democrats to go and do this. Lots of people are, rather than running, they're now forcefully coming out. You're seeing people like Mary Landers saying, I would vote for this law again.
Senator from Louisiana saying that.
Yeah, who is up in a really tough re-election this next year. And after a month of saying, well, we need to fix this, now she's out saying, I would vote for this law again. Here's the good things that are there. And so they're going to try to make this an asset.
What are the markers, Joe, that we should be looking for here in the coming weeks to come, whether or not this thing is actually gaining more momentum and is working like the White House says?
Well, one thing is that they've refused to say how severe the back-end problems are. They've said they've fixed 80% of the problems, but they won't say how many problems there were to begin with.
So it's still a black box.
Right. You just can't trust anything that comes out of the Health and Human Services Administration. So once they start revealing more information, you know, we've seen these leaks this week about a surge of enrollment. When they start to be more transparent, that will be a sign that things are getting better. I don't think that's going to happen.
Dan, do you see any sign that the White House is going to do anything other than tough this out, plow through, fight on, march on, declare victory no matter what happens, and just make sure that this will improve as it goes on?
No, absolutely, Paul. I think that is indeed the plan, is just to cram this down, push it through one way or another until you get enough people on those subsidies that will make it very difficult to get them off. The problem with that strategy, Paul, is I think a lot of people like the millennials or the people who are losing their insurance are finding out that essentially Obamacare is a welfare program and that they're going to pay higher cost, higher premiums so that other people over here, the uninsured and people with pre-existing conditions, can be subsidized. And that wasn't the way Obamacare was represented when it was sold to Congress. And I think that is going to create a political problem out in the country for them.
All right, Dan, thanks.